Welcome to the studios of Entrepreneur Circle, really close to the NEC, right in the heart of the country, to a groundbreaking event, which I was a bit nervous about putting on until this morning when I got a WhatsApp message. You know what a WhatsApp message is. And it came in as part of the mastermind group, or one of the mastermind groups, and it came from a guy who is super successful. And he's got a really great business, and he's managed to grow his business significantly. Had a few trials and tribulations on the way, but he's fundamentally done a great job. He's on a massive upward trajectory. But this message that he put out this morning to the group, it was just full of kind of insecurities and worries. And to those of us that are outside looking in, it's like he's got nothing to worry about. He's in an amazing place. You know, we can help him. Any little challenges he has, we'll help him get through these. But I know that those worries and those insecurities and those concerns that he's got, I know they're real. Because I've had them too. And so have you. If you've run a business for any length of time at all, you have prowled the landing in the dark of night. You know, woken from your slumber, unable to get back to sleep. The cold sweats have attacked. I know that because I've been there, and so has every other person that's ever built a successful business ever. And that's only the start of some of the challenges that we've got, because whilst it's true that what goes on between our ears has a massive impact in determining our success, it also has a massive impact in determining our limitations. And not just in business as well, but other aspects of life also. And that's why when the opportunity came up to put this event on today, I thought, Nigel, you've got to grab this and go for this. I know it's taking us as EC out of our comfort zone. It's taking us into new territory, because this is not a business event now this afternoon at all. It's not about marketing whatsoever at all. It's all about you, and fundamentally, it's about what goes on up here and how you think about yourself. And so I'm going to take my seat behind the camera for once, and I'm going to participate in the next sort of 80 or 90 minutes or so along with you, because I'm going to hand over the Entrepreneur Circle in all its glory to a fabulous lady who's one of the leading clinical psychotherapists in the world. She knows a lot about what goes on up here, and in particular the stuff that stops the likes of you and I and my friend in Mastermind from making the progress that we should be making in all aspects of our life. Now, having said all that, while she's absolutely top of her tree at what she does, she's also somewhat petrified right now, because this is a new experience for her as well. So we're going to show some EC love. Send all your good vibes down the airwaves if you can. Here in the studio, let's give it up for Louise Armstrong!
Thank you so much, and what a fantastic warm welcome. And it's amazing to be here, and I'm really, really honoured, and it's a big privilege. And thank you today for all of you who've shown up online. I really hope that you're going to enjoy today's event. There is nothing wrong with you, and I'm going to show you why with tips and techniques, and I've got some real inspirational stories. So I really can't wait to get going with this event. Nigel has only given me around 90 minutes to cram hours and hours and hours into this event, so I have condensed my little stories and my tips and techniques for you. So grab a pen, grab some paper, get yourself a drink, make yourself really comfortable, and just sit back and enjoy. There will be some bits that really resonate with you, and perhaps other bits that perhaps not so much. But hang on in there, because I guarantee you there will be something in there that's really going to help you create a more successful business, a more successful way of living your life. So, who am I? My name is Louise Armstrong, and I've been happily married to Ian for over 30 years. I'm mother to 3 beautiful kids, all in their late 20s now. Oh no, my eldest is 30. I'm a business owner, and I'm devoting myself to really help people around the world change their lives. I have completely transformed my relationships, my business, and also my financial situation. So I understand that change is possible for everyone. It's absolutely possible for you at home, sitting on your couch, sitting on your chair. I know change is possible for you. Simply because the mind is totally malleable, which means you can change anything. Perhaps you right now might resonate with some of my recent challenges. Last year, in the first lockdown that we had in March, my husband lost his job and unlikely to be working again in his field in aviation. And very sadly, I lost my father last July to COVID. So we're not immune to challenges. They are there for us to learn, and life does have a habit of throwing us curveballs, but it's how we respond to these curveballs, these challenges in life, that make us the people that we are today. So I'm sure all of us have been affected by COVID in some way. So the key to happiness and success really is becoming emotionally intelligent, because when you are emotionally intelligent, this is where success really comes from. And you might well have a really successful business. I mean, Nigel earlier mentioned this chap who's, in an amazing place. You could have a fantastic health. You could be at the top of your fitness peak. Or maybe you've got a wonderful relationship, a very successful marriage. But I'm here to tell you that you can have it all. And the answers lie between your ears, because mindset is the number one important thing here in order for you to create that success. So what actually is emotional intelligence? Well, emotional intelligence is really understanding yourself. It's really knowing yourself inside and out. So you know and understand those emotions that come up for you. You can control those emotions. You can see other people for exactly who they are. And when you are in this place, it allows you to really be the creator of your destiny, for you to create your future and not be dictated by others or your past teachers or what your parents thought was the best thing for you. Only you know that. Because when you become emotionally intelligent, you do feel a great connection with yourself, a really deep connection with others. You gain that wonderful sense of belonging. You feel whole and complete. And you will begin to understand your purpose, what the heck you're doing here anyway. And all of this starts off with mindset. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the birth of the Emotional Intelligence Mastery, which is my business, and I am the CEO and the founder of the Emotional Intelligence Mastery. And I believe it's the perfect way to heal, to grow, and to really transform your life. And it's only through me putting my hand up and saying, this is not working, this relationship is falling apart, this area of my business is, I don't understand, it's just not working, everything I try and do just doesn't work. It's only through me seeking help was I able to transform literally every area of my life. Again, there's nothing wrong with you, and I cannot tell you this. I could tell you this 100 times. What we're talking about here is perhaps if you are not creating that success that you want in your business, if your relationship isn't where you want it to be, it's simply because you are not seeing yourself in the best light. You're not the best version of yourself. So we are changing the perspective of yourself. There is nothing wrong with you. You do not need to change yourself. So many of us look at changing ourselves. So we become slimmer. We change our hairstyle. We move house. We get more money in the bank. We do lots and lots of things in our physical worlds. and nothing changes, because these feelings of success and fulfillment come from between our ears. So today, this is what you are going to hopefully learn a little bit about. So right now, at home, I want you to imagine designing a life that you create, that is not dictated to by others. Because right now, I've got a good guess that you're probably feeling really stuck. Maybe you're in overwhelm. God, I know that feeling so well. Maybe you're procrastinating day in, day out, doing so much irrelevant stuff, everything but what you're supposed to be doing. Perhaps you're feeling really anxious right now with the pandemic that we're all living in. So frustrated with yourself, you just don't know what to do next. And nothing appears to work, and you just want so much more from life. Well, I'm here to show you that you can change all of this. And right now, I want you to stop trying so hard doing what you're doing. You've got masses of energy. You've got huge determination, and it isn't working. Why? Just perhaps you're using the wrong part of your mind. You're looking in the wrong place. You may have heard this saying, becoming conscious of the unconscious. And what that really means is creating an enormous awareness about yourself, when you can really see what's going on in the background. So I've created here a very, very simple analogy of an iceberg to briefly talk to you about the two minds that we have, and I could talk all day about this, but I'm going to briefly share with you the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And the conscious mind is that little tip of the iceberg that pokes out of the top of the water. And the subconscious mind is the part the big part that moves the iceberg in the bottom of the water, the bit that you don't see. So the conscious part of your mind is only responsible for 5% of your behaviours, just 5%. So whatever you're trying to do in your business, in your relationship, with your health, if you are just focusing on making a conscious decision, you will probably fail, because there's something going on there in the background, in that subconscious part of your mind, that is driving you to do something else. So we are today going to focus more on how you can change what is going on in that subconscious mind. So consciously, you need a drink. You feel thirsty. And so what do? You make a conscious decision to have a drink. Brilliant, it works really well. The conscious mind is really good at analysing things. It's really good for strategizing things. But here's the thing, the driving force comes from that subconscious mind, where all your learned behaviours are stored, where all your learned programs are stored, your emotions, your feelings. And these are all triggered automatically, and you're probably not even aware of them. But they drive over 95% of your behaviours. So let's not focus on the symptoms which are going on in your life. Let's focus on the cause and the driver. So let's see what we really need to change. So here we have, some of you might recognise a picture like this. So consciously, you may well be making a decision that you are not going to bawl at your husband again. You are not going to yell at your wife again. The laundry's on the floor. No one's helping you with the washing up. He's not loading the dishwasher again. And you are sick to death of having another argument. You're fed up with shouting and arguing and the good old nagging. So you make a conscious decision. But guess what happens? You do the same old thing, don't you? You still bawl at him. You've told yourself you're not going to. You still scream and shout at him. Why? Because these learnt behaviours and programs and emotions inside of you are driving you to act and behave in that way. So that's an example where the conscious mind really does not help. Any of you out there who have tried to lose weight, consciously, it's very easy, isn't it? You get the diet, you know exactly, less calories in, you're going to lose weight, right? So you eat less and you exercise more. Why don't you do it? Why do you eat well Monday to Thursday? Friday night, the pizza comes out, no, it's not Tom and Jerry, is it? It's Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and the 4 pints of beer and the bottle of wine, and what's gone wrong there? Consciously, I want to lose weight. That's because the emotional eating is the thing that's driving the show. You've got to eat that. You've got to have those fries. You've got to taste that pizza because it makes you feel good and you want the comfort from that food. So that is why we don't ever want to focus just on the symptoms. I hope that's all making a little bit of sense. Most of these programs, most of these behaviours and your belief systems are stored in the subconscious mind, and these beliefs are created under the age of 7 years. The mind isn't logical. Why on earth would you create a program at the age of 4 that is still in action at the age of 54? There is zero logic in that. But trust me, ladies and gentlemen, changing programs and beliefs that don't serve you actually result in you being that authentic self and you creating huge success in your life. And I really want you to remember this, really remember this. The mind is totally malleable, so you can change anything you want. Nothing is hardwired. It really isn't. So there's nothing wrong with you. Let's dive in to the material and let's really get into those tips, those techniques, and some lovely inspirational stories. So first of all, we are going to look at a simple tool that banishes overwhelm. And overwhelm is one of the most common issues that people come to me with. They feel completely stressed out in every area of their life. They've got feelings of not being able to cope at all, even with small tasks. They need to control everything. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know, take minute control of what other people are wearing, what they should be saying, what people should be doing, getting into other people's business. This is all about those feelings of being in overwhelm. They've got massive feelings of just not being good enough. Everything they do is just not enough. If they're at work, they feel they should be with the kids. If they're with the kids, they want to be at work. They want to be everywhere else except for where they are. Do you know what I'm talking about? People lose all focus. People are thinking about something else when they should be focusing on those emails. They should be getting that marketing plan out. And people become very, very forgetful. They don't show up for that Zoom call. They miss meetings. And all this is because they are in complete overwhelm, which keeps you stuck. And so you are unable to make a decision. And amongst all of this, everybody comes to me and says they're on a really short fuse and they've got this temper that just sort of flies off the handle. So I'm sure some of you at home right now can resonate with some of these things that people feel when they're really overwhelmed in life. And the overriding thing that people come to me with suffering from overwhelm is this continual negative thinking, these thoughts that loop round and round and round, and they beat themselves up with this great big stick and They look upon everything else as negative. There's no positivity left in life as these thoughts keep going round in their minds. So I'd love to introduce here Nicola. She's an old client of mine. She's a journalist, and she was in complete overwhelm. She just didn't know what to do next. She tried lots of things. She's a very, very intelligent girl. She writes amazing articles. She's had some really good reviews. So she couldn't work it out exactly what was going on. She was just really suffering in so many areas. She'd been married to Robert for many years, and they had 3 beautiful kids. She came to me and she said she was putting on weight. She was eating all the wrong food. Why? She's always been, you know, very conscious of what she eats. She had no energy. She was really lethargic. She was drinking too much. That second glass of wine had gone up to a bottle of wine. This negative thinking was taking over. She was really becoming very distant from her husband, and she felt so out of control. And all this had a massive effect on her work because she really wasn't producing what she usually produced and what was expected of her, which sent her into that spiral of negative thinking. So what did we do with Nicola? We helped Nicola to work in a smart way. She went right back to basics and the foundational to grow any sort of good mindset is to think in a positive way. So we went right back to basics and really helped Nicola to see things in a new light. We then helped Nicola get back her control because a lot of things she felt were out of control. She could control what she eats, that's down to her, how she dresses, how she wore her hair, what time she pitched up at work, what exercise she did, whether she did a yoga class. These were all things in her control, and she began to focus in on the things that she could control. She prioritized the most important things in her life, and they were very, very clear to her. And once she was able to prioritize things, things started looking better for her. But one of the big things we did with Nicola is we stopped her overthinking these negative thoughts. And so right now, I guess this is something you do. You tell yourself a bunch of stories, right? You tell yourself a bunch of actual untruths, okay? So I've got the most amazing tool. It's very quick. It works. You can practice this at home with me right now. What it is called the emergency stop. And it is designed as a pattern interrupt which stops that negative thinking dead in its tracks. It does not heal your past, but what it does is it stops the stories, because it's the stories that destroy the self-esteem, that pull you down into those dark, dark places. So I'd love you to sit back for 2 minutes and just experience this technique. So for our practice purposes today, I invite you all to close your eyes. And what this means is you just stop taking in the information around you. So I'd like you to think about a negative thought. Any negative thought, it doesn't matter. It's just for, you know, today's example, if you like. Anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, an unpleasant emotion. So just have that in mind. Just note that you've got that memory in your mind. And when you've got that memory in your mind, doesn't matter what it is, we're not telling anyone. Just push it to one side, because I'm going to ask you in a moment to grab it again. So hopefully you've all got that negative memory in your mind. And now what I want you to do is to imagine a clock face. This is an analog clock with an hour hand, a minute hand, and a second hand. Think about the colour of the hands and the face. And if there are numerals or markers on it, the clock is working and you can see the second hand moving. Make it really vivid, make it really strong in your mind. See the colour of the clock, make it so strong. And now send your mind to that negative memory and make that as vivid as you possibly can. And when it's so vivid, I want you to zoom in quickly to what seems to be the real nub of the situation. Zoom right in. And now freeze that memory solid. Make it as though it's a 3D model frozen in time in which you can move, but nothing else can. Be inside it, looking out rather than outside it, looking in. Freeze it solid. And now see the clock face and notice that the clock has stopped. The second hand isn't moving even the tiniest amount. Focus on that clock that has stopped at that time. Absolutely stopped. And as soon as you focused on that clock that has stopped at that time, you can open your eyes. And if I was to ask you what you saw now, my guess is you are looking at the clock that has stopped. And what that does is it stops you going down that negative trail of stories, of lies, of untruths. And so this is a tool, and all tools need to be practiced. You cannot just have a tool and expect it to work. So practice this, ladies and gentlemen, because it works. It really works. I've also got it's just less than 2 minutes, a recording that I'm very happy to send you, because this has been one of my #1 tools to also help I'm part of Frontline 19, helping the NHS stay online where they need to be, keeping us safe. And this is a brilliant tool that many, many NHS staff have been using. So practice it, it works, because these negative thoughts, these stories do destroy you. What really causes imposter syndrome? Something else that I think just about, every entrepreneur at some point on their entrepreneurial journey will have experienced. And so I'm going to help you today to understand what it is and that you can get rid of it. So if we do feel that we're suffering from imposter syndrome, we'll have low self-confidence, we'll perhaps feel like we're a failure, we've got low self-worth, we feel that we're not good enough, we don't believe in ourselves. Most people do not believe in themselves. And did you know that over 70% of us will really feel this quite strongly, and it will inhibit the success of your business at some point in your life. So I would love to introduce here Tom. Oh, he's an amazing guy, Tom. He is a photographer, a brilliant photographer. My goodness me, his pictures were second to none. So he does a lot of landscapes, but he also does weddings, and he does portraits of animals as well. So he is an absolutely brilliant photographer. It's got incredible reviews as well. And Tom came to me because he was beginning to argue with his wife. He felt he was not good enough in what he was doing. He was desperate to be top of his game. Everything he did had to be absolute perfection. But the problem is, as a failed perfectionist, which is what I am, many years of trying to be a perfectionist, there is no such thing as perfection. So this poor guy was really failing at every fence. He set himself up for failure, and he was really suffering from stress. His skin wasn't good. He was in really bad shape. On the outside, people thought, wow, he's got an amazing business here, But he just did not feel good on the inside, if you like. He really believed that his business was running on luck. And at any moment, this luck was going to run out. He really honestly felt that. So his biggest challenge was that he just didn't feel good enough, and he didn't know why. And he felt inadequate. He wasn't getting up to the par in so many areas of his life. And so with the work that Tom and I did together, what we discovered was that Tom, as a little boy, was brought up by two lovely parents, lovely mum, lovely dad, very, very high achievers. His parents were both doctors, they were top of their game, and they were massively high achievers. And they wanted the best for their little boy. So what Tom had grown up with was his parents really pushing him to be the best he could in whatever he did. So if Tom got 9 out of 10 in a maths test, this was seen as not good enough. He could see the look in his father's eye. He could see his mother shrug her shoulders. They were looking for the 10 out of 10. So Tom was constantly trying to be the best he could be. But if it wasn't the top, the 10 out of 10, he felt like a complete failure. So the work that Tom and I did together, he discovered that this was where this had all started. This was the cause for him of his imposter syndrome, not believing that he was enough. So what we did is we changed Tom's response to his parents' attitude to his work. And so he felt good about himself. He said 9 out of 10 is great, 8 out of 10 is great, And the more that Tom was able to sit into this mindset, the better he felt about himself. And amazingly, what happened to Tom was his confidence just blossomed, and it grew in every area of his life. So not only did his business grow, his marriage was a lot more meaningful, and he felt a lot more satisfaction in life. And that's the key, because what's the point in creating an amazing business if you don't feel good about it? What's the point? You'll probably just go on to create another business in the hope that I'll feel good next time. So that was Tom's little story. So you at home right now, I invite you to start looking at areas in your life where you just don't feel good enough. And you can ask yourself these 3 questions. Every time you start doubting yourself, ask yourself, is it true? And it's probably not. And then ask yourself, is it logical to think in this way? That, I was told this stuff when I was 10 years old. Is it logically for me to still be thinking like this? And is it serving me? So this was a big part of my journey, where my parents are very much, high achievers and perfectionists themselves. And I was very similar to Tom. I never felt I was good enough in their eyes. Whatever I did was never enough. And that took me back to maths. I'm really, really not very good at maths. I don't know how my kids are all amazing at maths. I'm not. I don't know how the genealogy works in that. But I really struggled with maths. And if I got, 9 out of 10 in some maths test, I was seen as not being good enough. And so I grew up with that feeling of just not being enough. But you at home, by asking yourself these questions, you can really start to change your neural network, your beliefs, your programs, and your thoughts. Just because your parents or your teachers or, your caregivers thought something in some way, or society tells you something, that doesn't mean it's right for you. Because we're only ever going to be successful, truly successful in life, when you come from that authentic place. And that authentic place is what is right for you. If you think 8 out of 10 is good, good. That's all you need. That's enough. I encourage you to ask for help. Asking for help, putting your hand up and saying, this is not working for me, is such a sign of strength. Why? Because it's not easy to do. So all you've got to do is find someone who knows a little bit more than you do. That's all it is. And no one ever became successful on their own. Any successful person in life became successful because of the people they asked for help around them. So I really encourage you to do that. Do not try and do this by yourself. Honestly, it's the smartest thing to ask for help. Okay, we're moving on quickly here because I've got a lot of information I want to share with you. So we are now going to move on to procrastination, and this is another massive topic that I believe most of us as entrepreneurs will suffer from. People in the corporate world, definitely my own children have come to me with this. You know, it's extremely common, and it might not be what you think procrastination is, but it absolutely stops you being where you want to be. It absolutely stops you in your tracks, and it's incredibly frustrating. So when we are procrastinating, you might fear that, you know, it's all fear, which is really what procrastination is. You could really fear being judged. Fear of what other people might say about you, or about your work, or about your business, or about how you look. The fear of failure and the fear of success that not many people focus on actually can keep you procrastinating day in, day out, keeping you super busy, doing all sorts of irrelevant stuff and not what you're supposed to be doing to take that business forward to that next step, to develop that relationship with your partner, to become that fitter, healthier person that you really want to be, to get that extra money into the bank. So that is the key. You will keep yourself busy doing everything irrelevant. So you might well be, you know, for me, for example, one of my biggest fears is technology and computers. So I will do anything but do it, you know, look at my computer to build a landing page or go through some email sequence. I will do anything. I will tidy my office. I will, you know, talk to someone. I will put the washing on. I will think of ideas. I will write an article. I will do anything, but don't let me anywhere near that computer, right? So I keep myself really busy, and I convince myself that I'm really busy, so I haven't got time to do what is relevant to me taking my business forward. So I'd like to introduce Melanie here. Melanie has been part of a family furniture business for many, many years, and it's been in the family for a few generations, and they make the most beautiful things. They've got some stunning tables, they do wardrobes, they do all sorts of furniture. And Melanie's job in the family business, she was the marketing manager. And she came to me, she was really stressed, she was overwhelmed with all the workload she was being given, and she became totally unmotivated. She really thought, well, what's the point in all of this? She was really beginning to question her life. She was very tired, she couldn't be bothered to exercise, she let her self-care regime go. She was really in a mess. She really was not able to do her job properly, and it was really beginning to affect her home life as well. And she found herself doing so many irrelevant tasks. So for you at home, do you resonate with that? When there's something that needs to be done, will you do everything else but that one thing? I bet you do, because it's really common. It is really common. What we discovered for Melanie was actually her biggest fear was a fear of success. And this wasn't something she'd even thought about, or anyone else had, to be honest, because she had discussed these problems with, she's got a very close-knit family, she's got some really good friends, but nobody could really pinpoint what was going on with Melanie. Why all of a sudden? Well, it was a gradual process, actually. It was a gradual build-up. But why was she feeling like this? Because on the outside, everything didn't look too bad at all. But what we discovered was her fear of success, because she believed that if she became successful and hit that target, she'd have to sustain that position there. And not only that, she'd then have to hit a bigger target and a bigger target and a bigger target. So her greatest fear was she would not be able to do that. And so her mind kept her safe, and it kept her from reaching any target that was expected from her. And so she started to dwindle into that spiral that she wasn't good enough, she was a failure, maybe this wasn't the right job for her anymore, and so she went on and on and on. So you might notice that yourself in your own business. What is your fear? Are you fear of taking that step in case you fail and it doesn't work out? Or are you really scared of becoming successful? And sometimes people, and I've worked with lots of people in this arena, where they've been so scared of becoming successful because they think all their friends are going to run away, because they won't want to associate with them anymore. So there can be lots of reasons why you keep yourself stuck and not achieving. Fears are not real, okay? They are figments in your imagination, because Melanie had no idea, because she hadn't achieved that big target yet, that she couldn't achieve it, that she couldn't achieve more and more and more. So they're built on your own untruths. They are not real. These are the stories going on in your mind. So you can see that Melanie was telling herself stories day in, day out. You tell yourself enough times a story and it becomes a belief. Once it's a belief, you truly believe it. It's your belief. You've created it. And you've created it from nothing, but from some future lies and stories. So, as I said, this is your way of keeping your mind safe, so you are not going to create that success so you can't fail. So what we worked with Melanie was we helped her to look at the tasks that needed to be achieved, and we broke them down into bite-sized chunks. So for instance, if I said to you right now, this weekend I want you to decorate your house, you would not do a thing. It's way too big a task. You would not do a thing. But if I said to you, I would really like you to choose the paint for the front door, you would be able to do that. So this is what we did with Melanie. We broke her tasks that she had been avoiding down into bite-sized chunks. And we made Melanie accountable. So she was accountable to achieve that bite-sized chunk, and she knew she could do it. So I encourage all of you to have 3 goals. One audacious goal. The big audacious goal is you are going to decorate your entire home, right? You then have a goal that pushes you a little bit out of your comfort zone. You are going to decorate the kitchen. And one goal that you can achieve, you are going to choose the paint for the front door. Now the reason for this is the mind loves completion. The mind needs to know you've completed something that day. It loves completion. And I'm just going to go off on one of my tangents here and talk to you about why social media is very destructive for the mind. It's got its place and it's a brilliant tool, and I'm on it a lot, probably too much, but it can be very destructive for the mind, simply because there is no end game. Nothing's completed. You can scroll on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can keep scrolling for 24 hours. The mind loves completion. You're actually better to read a chapter of a book. You've completed that chapter, that section. So just bear that in mind, that what really boosts that confidence, what makes you feel good, is completion. And you may find yourself at home now with hundreds of tasks that you've started and you've not completed them, and you don't feel good. So that's why every day it's important to complete one of your tasks. Your working environment is fundamental, right? If you've got a desk with papers all over it and they're falling on the floor, and you're so disorganized, that is a sign of what's going on in your mind, right? So I really encourage you to create a good working environment for you. What does it look like? You know, do you want a peaceful, calm place? Do you want it to be all organized so you're not faffing around trying to grab that file or that paper and you don't know what on earth you're doing the next day? So I believe that organization is really key for anyone, especially now a lot of us are working from home and we've had to create these mini little offices. You know, we do need to be organized, and before you go to bed at night, you should know exactly what you're doing the next day. That might be flexible because stuff happens in life, but you do need to know what you're doing before you go to bed at night for the next day. The mind loves that. The next day, you don't have to make a decision. The decision's made. You've already made it, and that's half the battle with the mind. So it's very important that you have a good working environment. Read about inspirational people. I love reading about people who have overcome challenges, people who have, you know, created incredible things in their lives through literally nothing. And I guarantee you, you'll find in that book that it started with mindset, because that's where everything starts, right? It all starts here. So read about those inspirational people. Get used to writing, right? You are now going to have an opportunity to release those fears inside of you. So, for example, Melanie's fear, she was able to write on paper once she created that awareness. I'm really scared of reaching this goal because I don't think I'm going to, you know, be able to stay at that target, and I'm going to be given a bigger target, and now I've got even further to fall. So once she got this on paper, she was able to see really clearly why she wasn't taking those steps to reach that big target in her business. And so what I invite you to do, and we talk about this a little bit later on, because I'm a big believer in releasing these negative, these harmful, these heavy emotions that are actually just nonsense, but we've got to release them in a physical way. So get them out on paper and rip them up. You don't want them. You don't want them in your life. They're not helping you at all. So these are some of the things that Melanie and I did together. And what happened was that confidence inside of her, so it comes inside of her. You only get confidence from taking the action. How many people come to me and say, I'm going to go for that job interview, or I'm going to talk to that client, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that Facebook Live, when I feel confident? The confidence comes from the action, right? So all those bits and pieces that we did together, she started to feel so much more confident about herself that she could reach that target and another target. It was just breaking it all down into bite-sized chunks. And so her business started to really go from strength to strength. And now I can't remember the turnover because, of course, my maths is rubbish. But it was enormous what she's able to turn over now and feel really good about it. That is the key, to feel really good about it. Okay. Woo! Right, I'm getting warm in here now. This is a very nice warm studio you have here, Nigel. Very good. It is very warm. So this moves me on to relationships, and you know, I have to keep this short and sweet because Nigel's limited me to time, and I know time is one of the most precious things we have. Why? Because we never get time back, right? We never get time back. So time is the most important commodity you have. And so because we're limited on time here today, I am just going to talk to you about 4 keys to relationship success. And really, I could have probably shared about 15 or about 20. So this has been quite hard for me to narrow down to 4. But for today's purposes, I've chosen communication, I've chosen compassion, and this is particularly compassion when you're having a disagreement, when you're arguing, when you have got a difference of opinion. Understanding yourself is absolutely key in any relationship, whether that's in business, whether that's with your intimate partner, whether that's with a friendship or with your child. You have to understand yourself and trust. Without trust, you've got no relationship. You've got zero. So trust is super, super important. So let's start with communication. And we communicate on lots of levels, right? Lots and lots of levels. But today, what I'm going to talk to you about are just 3 levels. So we talk to each other, and this is us communicating verbally. We also communicate with our behaviour. And lastly, the deepest form of communication is your energy. It's your emotion. That is what that other person takes on board. That's what they feel. So I'm going to give you a good example here how communication in a relationship falls apart. And communication is one of the biggest things that people come to me with. They're just not able to speak to each other anymore. It's either through periods of silence or they're just bickering all the time, right? So just a quick example here. You might well have had an argument with your husband or your wife in the morning. You both go off, you do your day's business, you go to work, you come home that evening, and you don't want to bring up this argument again. It's the last thing you want to do. So you come through the door and you say, "Hi darling, good to see you." You've said the right thing, right? Good, no problems there. You also behave in the right way. So you give them a big hug or whatever you do, but you behave in a positive, generous way because you don't want to bring up this argument again, right? But you feel pissed off. You're so damn annoyed that they have said this and done that and not doing what you want. That's the feeling that person has now got. They are now left clueless. But she or he said the right thing, but she or he behaved in the right way. And now, why on earth do I feel confused? And this is the start of the relationship breakdown, because we create a great fear here about addressing the problem. We do whatever it is and skirt around the problem. You know how many times you've argued in your life and you're on some tangent, you forget what the argument's about, right? That's what we do. We avoid the big elephant in the room, yeah? But I really want you to understand that that feeling inside of you is going out to your partner, it is going to your business partner, to your client. If you are absolutely shit scared of charging that price, I'm telling you now, that client is shit scared too. Why would they want to pay that price? Whoa, this is really scary stuff, whoa. So we've got to be in alignment with our emotions. Remember, those emotions are stored in that subconscious mind. So if they're not serving you, we've got to change them. So that client, when you're charging those prices, that client thinks, whoa, that's a good price. Yeah, I'm going to go for that. They're not even buying on price here, right? It's your emotion. So, you know, I go off on tangent. I got to get back on. Thank goodness Nigel said to have these slides, or I'd be off with the fairies by now. Whoa. So we need our communication to be in alignment. So what you are saying, how you're behaving and how you're feeling needs to be in absolute alignment for that message to be so clear to that person. But of course you've got to be clear to yourself. So think about it. It affects so much at home and in your business, right? It is absolutely paramount that you do this, because honestly it affects businesses left, right and centre, and it also destroys relationships. Why aren't we taught how to communicate in school? Baffles me, right? So how do you improve your communication skills, right? How do you improve them? So I'm just going to run through a few things there. I talked about being in alignment, so you can really get into touch with yourself, that when you're saying something, you need to feel it. You really need to feel it, to be honest with yourself. Some other tips here, right? And these are really good tips in business, at home, with your partner, or with your kids. I'm helping loads of mums now who are running businesses, and they've got little kids of 3 and 4 and 5, and they're using these tips and they work. So if you want something done, you need to be assertive and use the word I. Come from the word I. I would really like you to empty the dishwasher. I would like you to pick up your clothes from the floor. I would like you to tidy your toys. I would like this project on my desk at 10 o'clock. I would really like to hear from you by 11 o'clock tomorrow. It's a very strong statement. And what this does is it stops that other person feeling that you're telling them what to do. No one wants to be told what to do, right? No one. If you go around telling someone what to do, they already put up the hackles. So we break it all down and start with the word I. Have a core statement, and what this means is, what exactly is your message? Get super clear on what you want that person to know, because if you aren't clear yourself, I'm telling you now, you've got zero hope of anyone else having the faintest idea what you are on about. So get really clear what the message is. I want the dishwasher empty tonight at 7 o'clock, not next flipping Tuesday, right? Get super clear on what it is you are asking. And in that sentence where you are coming from the word I with your core statement, do not justify. I can't say this enough times, my goodness. I must say this every day of the week. Do not justify. Justification weakens your core statement, right? So never say it at the same time. If that person says, well, you know, why have you said that? Or what's all this about? It's then you can explain your reasons for, but never in the same sentence. And the biggie here above all, which I believe everybody's trying to do, is to try and change someone else. You want to try and change their opinion. You want to try and change their views on something. You want to try and change how they see you, or how they see something going on in business, or whatever it is. Everyone's trying to change everyone else. But we're not into that game. Why? Because it's impossible. You can only change how you see yourself, which in turn changes how you see the world and those other people in your life. So come away from trying to change that person. It also, what it does in our good old subconscious mind here, which is what we're changing, it also signifies to yourself that you have failed, because every single time you try and change that other person to speak in a certain way, behave in a certain way, show up in a certain way, now you've failed. You actually erode even more of your self-esteem, so you feel even worse. So don't do it. Really be conscious of it. Really be conscious of it, honestly. Showing compassion whilst handling conflict, right? This is a biggie in all relationships, and this is, you know, very much in the business field, with your clients, with your fellow colleagues, and at home, and with your children. So the first thing is to do is, when you are having a disagreement, and you can think back to past disagreements you've had, you know, you might want to think of one right now, is notice you're upset. It is your emotion. That person did not make you angry. That person did not make you upset. That person did not make you feel frustrated. They have no power over you. What happened was they triggered, either by their actions or what they said or their message or their email or whatever, they triggered an emotion you already have. So, you know, we're balls of emotion. We've got all the emotions inside of us. So you need to be able to own that emotion. Yeah, that, you know, he's just triggered the anger that I already have. So we need to be able to release our own emotions when we are in any form of conflict, because when we can do that, we actually see the person for who they really are. And that's what this is all about when you are having any form of disagreement. If you can see that person for who they really are, you are going to have much more resolve in whatever is going on. Honestly, it works. So try it. Understanding yourself and your core values. So it's so important to know your likes in life, not what your parents have told you you should like, not what your friends like, not what social media or the news tells you you should like, but what your likes are. You know, we all need to be able to stand up and be unique. This again needs to be taught in schools. What your dislikes are, you know, you need to own these dislikes. I really don't like that, you know, and this could be anything from food to social life to your intimate life to what's going on in your business. Get really clear and really understand you, because the more you understand yourself, the more you understand the world that we live in. And what's important to you are your core values, right? These are things that you stand by. And we can have lots of things that are important to us, you know, like loyalty and kindness and gentleness and resilience and courage and being brave. You know, we can have so many things in life that are important to us. And what I encourage you to do is to create 5 core values. So 5 things that have great meaning to you. Because what I promise you, if you live your life by 5 core values, you will never be wrong. You will be able to make decisions much more easily. Now you can see our little friend here, Arthur Daly. Honesty, not one of his core values, clearly. So if honesty was one of your core values and your husband gets something off the back of a lorry, or your friend, your mate, your, you know, business partner does something that's not quite kosher there, it doesn't matter what you do, I guarantee you it will never sit well with you. It's going against something that's in your inner core. So I really invite you to get clear on your core values, and when you make decisions in life, you need to be able to look at what those core values are. And they do change, right? They change because we change and we grow. So I do my core values every year, October, November time, ready for the next year. And they do change along the line. So that will really help you in your relationship to know what's important to you. And trust. Trust is a biggie here. And this may be something that you might not know about trust. Trust is really all about trusting yourself. And my husband and I, Ian, have been together, seems like forever now, but since I was 20. So over 35 years we've been together. And I do trust Ian because his behaviour and his past tells me that he's a trustworthy guy, right? But the only person I can really trust is myself. And that's because I have no idea what Ian is going to do next, right? So trust is all about trusting you, learning to trust your intuition. And intuition is something we all have. And the more you use it, the more it grows. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, it'll just wither away. But by really tapping into your intuition and using your intuition, it'll be your greatest guide ever. It really will. So I've done a lot of couples counselling in the past, and I've helped people, you know, for many years in relationships, and they come to me, they're checking phones and they're getting trackers on things and hitmen, no, not hitmen, what is it? Well, it's not hitman, no, detective, you know, detectives, there's a name for it, it's gone past. Yeah, something like, yeah, private detective, thank you. Yeah, so they get all these people to find out what their husband's doing. All you really need, honestly, is to tap into your intuition. You know it's off, there's something off here, something not right, yep. right, I'm onto it, I'm going to have that conversation, and you don't let go of it. So tapping into your intuition is your #1 guide to trusting yourself and those people around you. You really need to be able to trust those business partners. You really need to be able to trust your clients. You know, to be able to trust your children. You know, in all of your relationships, trust is paramount. So how you tap into your intuition, you can only do that when you're by yourself. And that's because the attention is all on you, and you're not being distracted by talking to other people or watching something. You know, you have to be alone. So the more time you spend either meditating or having a walk in nature, or just that time alone where you just sit down with yourself, you'll begin to understand that that intuition deep inside of you is very gentle, it's very soft. It can be a little voice, it can be a nudge, but it is absolutely 100% right for you. And if you live your life trusting your intuition, I guarantee you, you'll never be wrong. And you will be so much more authentic, living the life that you should be living, you know, being that best version of yourself. So that trust really is paramount. And Sharon, beautiful lady, came to me a while ago, and she had a very toxic relationship with her husband, and it was really going downhill. She really didn't know what was going on. But by actually just focusing on being able to tap into her intuition, learning how to trust herself and her husband, she was able to create a much happier relationship and a much healthier one by going through one of my group programs. So trust is paramount. Start trusting yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! Okay. So, big topics here. Whoa, anxiety. If you haven't heard of anxiety, you're living under a stone. And I think just about all of us know that word, anger. So this is a massive topic that I could probably talk to you about for 2 days on this topic. But as again, we have a limited time here, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to try and pick out the most important parts for you to understand. Anxiety is a buzzword, right? Who hasn't heard of anxiety? Okay, and it's, you know, can be used from someone having full-blown panic attacks. And many of my clients have been in this situation where they end up in the ER room. The ER, that's in America, but that's because they were my American clients. They're in in the emergency room, believing they're having a heart attack. They honestly believe they're having a heart attack, to the little flutter in your stomach or, you know, those sweaty palms. So we have big degrees of anxiety. So I'm going to share with you some tips and some techniques and a little story around anxiety. So anger and anxiety really cause a big range of physical and emotional problems that will affect you in every area of your life. Now, sleep's one of the most important things for us to function as a human being, more important than food and water, would you believe? And feeling anxious, experiencing uncontrolled anger can lead to very poor sleep. We've mentioned this before, those negative thoughts that just don't stop. They just loop round and round and round and round again. These racing thoughts that go round are often, subject to us feeling that anxiousness. So these are, we can have, serious or mild stomach and bowel issues where you're having to, take drugs. IBS is one of the most common bowel issues that is related to anxiety. In fact, what goes on in the gut is directly related to the mind, and that's because the hormones that are produced when you're feeling anxious are actually produced in the stomach. And I think this is one of the biggest things, is you just can't function normally, right? You really can't do the day-to-day things that you need to be doing and that you want to be doing. So there is a big range of how we experience anxiety, and it can lead to exhaustion, you know, that you're unable to conduct those things that you need to conduct. You can't focus on what you're supposed to be doing. You feel on edge all the time. You know, you just don't know what's going to happen next. It really is an awful feeling. And those feelings of being out of control. And that's what just about everybody comes to me with. They are feeling out of control. So let's just look at anxiety for a moment, because it may not be what you think it is, okay? So anxiety is actually the brain's response to a potential threat. It is the brain responding to a potential threat. Now, the part of the brain I'm talking about is the reptilian brain, the hind brain. It's a very old brain. It's been around about 250 million years. How long they're not information, I've no idea. But anyway, that's what they tell me. And what this part of the brain does is it responds to anything that you haven't seen before, anything that's uncertain, anything new. It'll respond by fighting, flight or freeze. So you need to fight it off, you need to run away, or you need to freeze. And this response will also happen if you have felt anxious before in that situation. Because what this part of the brain does is it stores all of the situations where there is an emotional response attached to it. So if you felt anxious before in the past, you're going to feel anxious again. It's just making that match and that connection. So anxiety is a perceived threat, right? It is not real. There is no such thing as an anxiety attack. If you look at a terrorist attack, there is a terrorist conducting that attack. But with an anxiety attack, there is no anxiety causing the attack. The symptoms are very real, really real. The palpitations, the racing thoughts, the sweaty palms, you're going weak at your knees. You know, everybody has very different ways of experiencing anxiety, but these are some of the ways that the body reacts when it believes it's under a threat. But there is no threat there. You can have a full-blown anxiety attack in the shower thinking about what you're going to have for breakfast. How did that work? I wasn't even thinking of anything that could merely make me feel anxious, right? That's because somewhere in your subconscious, that memory has come up again that you're not even aware of, and it has triggered that anxiety, that anxious feeling. And it isn't your fault that you continue to feel anxious, and I'm going to tell you why. So, this reptilian of yours is designed to keep you safe. It doesn't want you to do anything different. It wants you to do the same thing, right? It doesn't want you to put up your prices. It doesn't want you to hit a higher target at work. It doesn't want you to be vulnerable or to be intimate in a different way with your wife or your husband. It doesn't want you to do any of those things. You know, and if you're used to drinking a bottle of wine at night, it wants you to continue to drink a bottle of wine at night. Why? Because that's kept you alive. It knows you're alive, and the basis of all of us is survival, because without survival, we have nothing. So your brain wants to keep you doing exactly the same thing, and it believes you're safe. It doesn't want you to change. So this part of the brain stores the emotional responses that have been attached to a situation. And I'm going to share with you a quick story here just to explain how it works. So a little girl, age 4, walking along with her mum, and is approached by a wild dog. This is as near to the wild dog as I could find. But anyway, this little girl is approached by this wild dog. The mother screams, she's hysterical. she drags her child and runs for the hills. Nobody remembers this memory, not the child and not the mother. All is well and life returns to normal. This 10-year-old little girl grows up, age 10. She sees a 6-week-old Labrador puppy and its eyes aren't even open. And she's terrified. How did that happen? Where did that come from? Because a good old brain here that's keeping her safe wants her to run like the clappers away from this dog because it sees all dogs as a threat. So it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a dog on television, whether it's a dog in real life, it doesn't matter. It'll respond in exactly the same way. And that's exactly what's happening to you if you feel any form of anxiety. Now, the thing is, this response is triggered 0.5 of a second before you're even aware of it. So how can you change something you're not even aware of, right? So the neural network is already triggered. So it's not your fault. But we have got things that we can help you to change this with. And I'm going to share this with you by bringing in Rachel. Rachel is a lovely woman who has been working for the NHS for some time now. She's a fantastic physiotherapist and she loves her job. She's loved it. She's always wanted to be a physio. She set out in life to be a physio and she absolutely loves her job. She came to me not that long ago because she was really suffering from a lot of the symptoms I've just talked about, really, really anxious. And what was going on, the big thing for her is she was feeling really insecure and really uncertain about what was going on, what was happening next, uncertain about her whole life, uncertain that she should be doing what she's doing. She was feeling jittery all the time. She became very nervous very nervous talking to her friends, nervous, dealing with her children. And she really felt she wasn't up to the par at work and was beginning to call in sick. Now, these were alarm bells ringing for Rachel. She didn't know what was going on. So what had happened is COVID, COVID that was the pandemic we're going through, is just a complete thing that's so uncertain. None of us knows when we're going to be let out. None of us knows where this is heading. None of us, it's such an uncertain future for all of us. So COVID had really triggered these feelings inside of Rachel, and she really didn't know what to do about it. So some of the things that you can look at doing now yourself, and these are some of the things that Rachel and I worked together with. She started to take back some control in her life, because when you feel anxious, you're totally out of control. You think the anxiety is controlling you. You think it's something's overpowering you and you have to behave in this way. So she began to retrain her mind that she is in control. So that was about focusing on her self-care, how she looked, what she ate, her exercise regime, what her day looked like that she could control. And she would write these things down, all the things that she could control. And it reminded the mind that, oh yeah, actually I am in control. And what happened was, through our sessions together, Rachel shared with me an old memory about 7 or 8 years ago where her mother had passed away, and she felt so uncertain for her future about life without her mother, because she only lived around the corner from her and she was a massive part of her life, and she felt really insecure about continuing life. So we went back to that memory and we changed Rachel's response to the memory of her mother's passing away to one of calm and to one of peace. So what happened with Rachel is she began to feel safe. She felt secure within herself. So she was able to get back to work. So even though COVID is going on all around her and it's on the news and, nothing's changed in her physical world, COVID is still here, but she felt so much safer and secure inside of herself. So that is a little bit about Rachel. So for you, really helping you to cope with anxiety right now at home is sometimes people, when they have the understanding that anxiety isn't real, the symptoms are real, it can really help them think, well, if this isn't real, this is just a perceived threat, what am I scared of? You know, just to look around you. What's so scary? What's hurting me right now? That can sometimes calm you down. It really can. We have a special breath here. It's an anxiety breath, and it's called the 4-7-8 breath. And what we do is, as soon as you feel those first feelings of anxiety rising inside of you, you breathe in, counting in your mind to the count of 4. You hold your breath for the count of 7, and you breathe out for the count of 8. And you continue to do this until that anxious feeling subsides. And I really encourage you to really practice that breath. It does a few things there, but mainly it's you taking control. You are controlling an automated response of breathing. So it signals to your brain, aha, she's in control here. So you automatically don't feel out of control. And it gives you a little burst of oxygen to your brain, which gets starved when you're in that anxious state. So you can think about feeling calmer and more at peace. You can use the emergency stop. Practice it. It works brilliantly once it's practiced, because it stops that overthinking. It'll stop those first anxious thoughts and feelings coming to mind. And if you're really suffering, I really encourage you to reach out for help, because anxiety is one of the things that is so changeable, and you don't have to live a life with anxiety. Honestly, it can be a thing of the past. Do not live with anxiety. So we're just going to move on now to anger. Anger. Whoa. My lovely husband found this picture for me of anger. So, what is anger? Anger is a very normal emotion. It's a very important emotion, and it alerts us to potential problems. So we don't want anger to go away. We need anger. So, for instance, when it's used in a good way, I'll share with you just a little snippet here. I'm very passionate about my dog. I have a little miniature Schnauzer, Bella, and if someone was grabbing my dog, I would want to feel extremely angry. So I'd want to scream at them. I'd want to really, kick them, get them out the way. So that is where anger is extremely important, to use in a controlled way. What I'm going to be talking about today is suppressed anger and uncontrolled anger. So suppressed anger is anger that you have suppressed over the years. You've been told by your parents you should not feel angry. One of your friends snatches a toy from you and you're very angry, and your mother says, be kind and share your toys. What's your problem? You suppress that anger inside of you. It then will explode like a volcano. That is what we call uncontrolled anger, where anger is not warranted, and most of it comes from suppression. And I truly believe if we got rid of all this suppressed emotions, particularly anger, we'd live in a very different world. And so there's many roots to anger, because they actually mask other emotions of sadness and hurt and disbelief, but we display it as anger. So the real problem here is not anger, but it's managing the anger effectively. So how do we manage anger? We look at the 3 A's: awareness, acknowledgement, and acceptance. No, it's your anger. This is really your anger, and we need to be able to release this anger. And I've got 3 golden rules when you're releasing anger. Never hurt yourself, anyone else, or anything. You can write it out. You can talk it out. You can scream it out, as long as there's no one else around. Or you can go and punch the living daylights out of a pillow or a cushion. Or you can actually breathe it out. And how you breathe it out is you breathe in the anger, and you notice that when your heart opens with 2 doors, you release the anger. So those are ways I really encourage you, and if you are exploding like a volcano, get rid of it in these safe ways. And Sally here found actually chapter 4 in my book, Change How You See Yourself Today, was brilliant in helping her control her anger outburst, so she was able to feel a lot calmer. So a few more tips on how to manage anger. If you're feeling really angry, simply take a breath. Take a breath and step back. It gives you a couple of seconds to make a better decision, perhaps. Practice meditation or relaxation, and there's lots of free apps out there, and I recommend, if you haven't done any of this before, start with Calm or Headspace. They're great apps and they are free. Any form of exercise. Our bodies are designed to move, so move your body. Do something you love. If you don't like running, don't run. Find a form of exercise you like and get used to stepping into that other person's shoes. Now we're going to move on to 3 strategies that are really going to help you improve your intimacy and your sex drive. We need to be able to see your partner in the best possible light, because if you just see him as okay, he's just going to be okay, or she's just going to be okay. If you see him or her as amazing, they'll be amazing. You need to work out your love language. We all talk different languages, and we all talk different love languages. And you need to be able to clearly communicate with your partner and be vulnerable. Vulnerability is what cements relationships together. So here's a few of the things that are going to help you to see your partner in the best possible light. Stay friends. Stop expecting that person to behave in that way. Enjoy a shared goal together. You should always be working towards something that you both want, whether it's decorating a room, whether it's booking a holiday, whether it's booking a meal out. Goodness knows when any of those things are going to be. Do something fresh. Learn a language. Do something new in the relationship. Keep it alive. Talk. Just talk to each other. Make that time, even if it's 10 minutes a day, talk. I can't emphasize that enough. Laugh more. Kids are brilliant at laughing. Watch your child. I think they laugh 10 times more than adults do. Whatever it is, laugh more. YouTube videos, whatever it is, laugh. Take a risk. Push yourself out of that comfort zone. Take a risk and learn to apologize. Learn to say sorry. It's a sign of courage when you apologize. So those are some of the things that are going to help you, really connect together. Working out your love languages. Now, Gary Chapman does this brilliantly, and you can Google him online. There's some free tests you can do. He's written books for adults, teenagers, and kids about it. So we need to work out what your love language is and what your partner's love language is. And so it might be words of affirmation. You love being told that you're amazing, or your hair looks good today, or you look nice in that outfit, and you're very hurt if you're not. It could be that you love just that quality time together, and you're very hurt if your partner is always scrolling through their phone. Receiving gifts could be yours. You're very upset if you don't get a birthday present, you don't get a Christmas present, or maybe it's acts of service. Maybe, you really are touched when your husband just takes over the washing up, or decides to do the hoovering that night, or your wife helps you with mowing the lawn. Or maybe it's physical touch, and this isn't intimacy. This is about holding hands together, maybe sitting closely on the couch, maybe it's that, touch on the shoulder. So you can work out what connects you, what makes you feel the best. We all have a primary one and we all have a secondary one. But I'm going to leave that to Gary Chapman, because he does it best. And when you really operate by your love languages, you fill up the old love tank. So we've all got a love tank, and it might well be running dry if you're using the wrong language. So let's move on now to clearly communicating, because so many of us, as we've talked before, do not know how to communicate, and this leads to intimacy issues, a low sex drive. You just don't even want sex anymore because it's just not satisfying, and you feel a real disconnection with your partner. But a good sex life is imperative for any long-term relationship. So I want to bring in Rebecca here, who came to me, and honestly everyone thought she had it all. The outside looked incredible. In fact, I wondered what she was coming to me for. She had an amazing business, she had a really nice husband, she got 3 healthy kids, and she had a most gorgeous home to die for. Whatever could be wrong here? Well, what was happening was her emotional connection with her husband was really fading. They'd been together a long time. She was beginning to feel alone, disconnected, and there was a sense of, you know, what's the point? She didn't feel any sense of belonging with her husband in her home anymore. So what's the point to all of this stuff? So this is the question you need to be able to ask your partner. Here's what I'm feeling, and this is what I need. And to get to that place, you need to talk together in a positive way, not what you don't want or don't have, but what you would like to have in your life. You need to be vulnerable, carve out that time together. Being emotionally vulnerable leads to a much more satisfied sex life. So I really encourage you to work out, what does intimacy mean to you? Because when we went through this process with Rebecca, guess what happened? She did have it all. She got that intimacy back. She began to look forward to sex. She initiated sex. They felt a much deeper connection between the two of them. So you need to get really clear on that emotional intimacy. And lastly, we need to be able to see others for who they really are and not for whom they're projecting themselves to be. And this is by understanding yourself and realizing that you see everyone through your own perspective. And also notice your first feeling, and lots of people don't do this, when meeting a new person. Really important in business. So first of all, your own perspective will be made up of your environment, your behaviours, your experience, your childhood, and you look through a pair of glasses. You see life very differently to everybody else. And you've got to understand that everybody doesn't see life like you do. Because what you see in others is what you already have yourself. So you need to be able to heal your own wounds, get your own stuff out of the way, and then you'll be able to see that other person in a much better light. And some of these things are not obvious. So it could be that your husband's anger is actually him feeling completely powerless, because as a little boy, when his father was hugely angry with him, he felt powerless, and so he is now displaying his feelings of powerless come across as being really angry. So I'm just going to bring in here Monica. Lovely, lovely young lady, Monica. She came to me because she felt her marriage was falling apart, and she just didn't understand her husband's anger. They were feeling disconnected, she was feeling so disconnected from herself and him. She felt it was all her fault, and this was really sending her her self-esteem to rock bottom. What she really needed to do was release her own fears, the fears of being rejected if she spoke up, the fears that her husband might even be thinking of leaving her. And she really honestly believed that his anger was all her fault. So, by Monica releasing her fears and connecting with her husband, Monica was able to understand his anger for what it really was. It's his anger, not hers. And through communicating in this new way, that he was able to talk to her about his fear of losing his job, not being able to provide for his family, and feeling really inadequate in their intimate life as well. And what this brought them together was a deep connection as they shared that vulnerability together. And the couple felt so much more at ease. because they were able to share what was really going on. And that's, again, understanding ourselves. And so I'm going to just bring up here this noticing your feeling, the very first feeling when you meet a new person, because it is almost always right. And so this is really important with your clients, in business, with anyone who is new in your life. Because what happens is you tend to quash that feeling down inside of you, and then you do not act on how you should. Because just for example here, if a new colleague comes in and she's a real gossiper and starts slating her past job and, you know, slating all sorts of things and talking about stuff, could quash that feeling down inside of you, and now you have no boundary, so you're not operating in that authentic way. So really notice your first feeling, because I guarantee you it'll almost always be right. You can't change anyone else's opinions. Bear that one in mind always. And if you start to live your life by that, you will really, really become more successful, because it will allow you to put that energy into your life and not keep giving it away to try and change that person. So it's really, really important. People do not change unless they choose to. You have zero power over anyone else. So we have to accept people for who they are. Think about changing the perspective of yourself, as this is really going to change your perspective of the entire world. And if you found this to be helpful, you're really going to love my new course. It's the most comprehensive program ever to help you stop living in the past, so you can really become the creator of your future. You registered for this event today, and you've been with me for the whole session. And now you know that changing your perspective is the most effective way to markedly improve your life. And it's so much better than anything else you might have seen. And that's why you're going to want to take advantage of this course that I'm offering you today. So if you want to put up those prices, stop procrastinating, eliminate that imposter syndrome, and deal with a relationship that's falling apart, sort out your fitness, sort out your diet, then this is perfect for you. In fact, it's specifically made for you. And let me tell you how we're going to fix all of this. The course has 12 90-minute modules. They're all pre-recorded, so you can go through them at your own pace, in your own time. And it's just me and you getting really focused on each element, so that you not only understand everything properly for the very first time, but you're also equipped to begin actually making the required changes. It's really powerful stuff. You're going to get comprehensive worksheets and the support of a special Facebook group that we're going to set up exclusively for EC members who come on this journey as well. I'm going to be in that Facebook group every day. I'm going to be helping you, supporting you, and if necessary, we'll jump on a one-on-one call, just you and me. We'll get to grips with whatever challenge it is you're facing. Now, this isn't therapy, but it is mentoring and coaching and support to help you properly tackle the things that are really holding you back in life right now. And a typical program like this would normally cost £3,000 or £4,000. But this course is available today for £497. But Nigel asked me to do something really special for you, as you're an EC member already. So I've agreed to drop the price to just $297 for EC members who come on board before midnight tonight. Now, because this is the most comprehensive course ever to help you stop living in that past so you can be the creator of your amazing future, it comes with 100% you'll love it guarantee. And if you're not happy with the course for any reason at all, just let me know and you'll get your money back. You know what? I want to make this even better for you. I know so many entrepreneurs are held back from the life they deserve by the things that we're going to tackle together. So I've also added some bonuses to the program. You're going to get a copy of my little ebook, How to Be Amazing in Your Life, and 10 hypnosis recordings that fill you with incredible positivity. So just to recap, this is just £297 to fix your life. You're going through a course that would normally cost several £1,000s that will equip you to stop living in the past so you can become the creator of your amazing future. You're going to be supported all the way by me and your fellow entrepreneurs so that change really does happen. So all you have to do is hit the green button on the screen now and claim your place. You're going to get immediate access to the course, and providing you act quickly and are one of the first 20, then you're also going to get an opportunity to have a one-on-one with me.
Wowzee. Well, thank you, Louise. Thank you very much indeed. You did really. I mean, you crammed such a lot into there,
yeah.
and I know it was, you know, a very novel around environment for you here today. Yeah. So it's not the easiest thing in our studio, but I hope everyone picked up. There were so many nuggets in that talk there, and I feel sure there was something in there for you. Louise's course, along with that one-to-one support and help, is available to you if it would be useful and helpful, because it comes with her 100% guarantee, so you can only see things moving forward in a better way for you if you take advantage of that. That was the EC, out of its comfort zone, tackling new topics and learning all sorts of things along the way. Thank you again, Louise, for coming up here today and for what you've done. I really appreciate that a great deal. Business Growth Central is back in its more normal 10-minute format next week. We'll see you then. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.